In this video, we're going to show you how to install these steering rack bellows on your Jeep Grand Cherokee, located on your steering rack. Using a 22mm socket, loosen and remove the lug nuts. Once you have the lug nuts removed, grab the wheel, remove it, and set it aside. So on our outer tie rod here, we have a jam nut. We want to go ahead and loosen this here. You can use just the locking pliers like I used here, or you can use a wrench for it, but the locking pliers is super easy and quick. We're now going to use our 22mm socket to loosen the nut on our outer tie rod end. We did spray this down with some rust penetrant. I'm just going to thread that on just a couple threads here. We're going to use a hammer and strike the knuckle here to go ahead and pop that out. Be sure that you're wearing safety glasses when you're doing something like this here. Loosen that nut and pop that off. Our next step is to unthread this off the inner tie rod. When you're spinning this here, I want to count the rotations that it takes for this to come off. So one full revolution is with this ball joint facing up. So we're going to spin this. We want to count the amount of revolutions it takes to remove this from the inner tie rod. Roughly 21. I'm going to go ahead and use a crayon or a marker and write that down. I can write that right on the knuckle here. Now we're going to remove our jam nut. Go ahead and set that aside. On the bellows boot, we have a clamp right here. Simply going to use a pair of pliers, pinch that, slide that off, set that aside. Now if we follow our bellows boot in, there is a clamp that holds this in place. Now this is a one-time use clamp, but we do have to remove it. So I have a special tip screwdriver here that has a notch in it. I'm actually going to put that notch right on that. I'm going to use a hammer and go ahead and tap that off. At this point here, we should be able to grab that bellows boot and slide that off and just pull it off the inner tie rod. Now we have our inner tie rod end right here. We have our band that we popped off, so go ahead and remove that. Discard that. Now with that bellows off, you want to go ahead and inspect in here. If you have power steering fluid inside the rack here, you have a rack issue. You definitely want to go ahead and repair that before you reassemble everything else. Now we're going to use the supplied tie here. I'm going to slip that over, go ahead and slide that boot in. Work the rack boot into place. Make sure that it's seated all the way in. Now we can use our tie strap here, and we're going to use this to secure this in the back. You reach up through the bottom side of the lower control arm here. Make sure you get that lined up. You can use pliers if you want to secure that a little bit tighter. Once you have that snug, go ahead and cut off the excess. Now if you find that the factory clamp doesn't fit over the boot here, it could be just that the boot is a little bit thicker for durability. You can just go ahead and grab another wire tie here. Go ahead and snug that down. And grab it with a pair of pliers, make sure that's good and tight, and then snip off the excess there. Install your jam nut. Thread on your outer tie rod. On our removal, we had 21 full rotations. So we're going to do that same. Go ahead and get this lined up. Install the nut. At this point here, we can go ahead and snug down our jam nut. Grab this here, straighten that out. I want to go ahead and snug this down using a 21mm socket. You want to go ahead and torque down the tie rod nut here to 70 foot-pounds. Now if you have the ability to do so, you want to go ahead and torque the jam nut to 55 foot-pounds. Otherwise, go ahead and use those locking pliers and make sure that's good and tight. Once you've completed this project here, you want to go ahead and bring that vehicle down and get an alignment done. That's going to help prevent premature wear of your tires and premature wear of other components. Go ahead and install your wheel. Get our lug nuts all started by hand first. Once we have all these on, we'll go ahead and snug them down. Now we want to go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. And at that point there, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.